All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to be doing test 8 today. We're just doing reading and writing, and we're testing with extra time and pause the clock so that I can pause and analyze a question without worrying about running out of time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Remember our strategies here. We're going to be reading the passage first, thinking about the overall structure of it, the purpose of the text, try to summarize it as we go so that we can anticipate the answer choices. Common traps that we're going to look for in the reading are going to be things that are too extreme, improper comparisons, more than, less than, those types of comparisons that are inappropriate. We're going to be looking for answer choices that could be true, but are beyond the scope of what is actually in the text. I've never done test 8 before. I'm previewing it before I use it with my students. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what we can learn today. Okay, so we got a word in context as we would expect at the beginning of the section. I'm going to make sure that my whiteboard and my video are not blocking this. Make myself a little smaller here. That's comfortable. All right, with word in context, I encourage us to ignore the answer choices. And just read the text and think about what the hook is here. Mexico's first president from an indigenous community, Benito Juarez, became one of the most something figures in his country's history. The colon here is indicating that the next phrase is going to explain what he was in history. Many significant accomplishments of his long tenure in office, Juarez consolidated the authority, so he was influential. He had a significant impact during his tenure. So important, makes sense. Artist Marilyn Dingle's intricate coiled baskets. So intricate. We're getting some descriptions here. Baskets are something sweetgrass and palmetto palm. Okay. Combinations. Following the gullah technique that originated in West Africa, Dingle skillfully winds a thin palm frond from around a bunch of sweetgrass with the help of a sewing bone to create a basket signature look that no factory can reproduce. That's the key here. I think they're handmade. Yeah, predicted it. Indicated by no, represented by collected with. Yeah, the baskets are not indicated by or represented by sweetgrass. They're made from, so handmade from. The Mule Bone is a 1930 play written by Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes. Is perhaps the best known example of the few examples of blank in literature. Probably co-authorship, maybe? Most writers prefer working alone. Hey, there it is. Because they told us there were 2 authors of this text, and then they're emphasizing that most work alone. So given that working together cost them their friendship, it's not hard to see why. Collaboration. Yeah. Diego Vasquez was the leading artist in the court of King Philip IV of Spain during the 17th century. But his influence was hardly blank Spain. Again, the colon indicates the clarification. Realist and Impressionist painters around the world. Okay, so it was hardly restricted to Spain. It was hardly, confined to Spain. And in fact, that's an answer choice. All right, I promise I have never seen these questions before. It's just practice. You practice enough times, you get a feel for what the authors of the test are kind of going for. Researchers and conservationists stress that biodiversity loss due to invasive species is something. And then the clarification. People can take simple steps. Is not, they can take steps to prevent it, right? It is not unavoidable. It is avoidable. It is preventable. There we go. All right, different kind of question here. There were 5 words in context questions. That felt like a lot. Okay, we have text structure and purpose. I love the new highlighter. I love that you can you don't have to open a menu to get to the highlighter. That's really nice. Companies are providing consumers with more opportunities to purchase customized products than ever before. Whether buying customized sneakers, jewelry, or clothing, consumers can participate in the design of products to meet their specific needs and tastes. So far we've got a couple of statements about customizing products and some examples. Companies profit from this customization. Studies have shown that consumers are willing to pay more and wait longer for a customized product. That's true, I would. It can be difficult for companies to offer customized. So they state a business practice, they give a benefit, they give a potential drawback. That's the structure of what we're going after. Difficult companies to offer customization while keeping costs low. The standard method of mass production may not be able to accommodate. Yeah. Recent innovations. There's no indication that this is a recent innovation. Company's recent success. No, it's not a company. It's companies at large. As soon as I find one thing that's wrong, the whole thing is wrong. Don't bother trying to convince yourself that something else is going to fix it. The entire answer must be correct. Introduces a trend in consumer products that then explains how the trend benefits and poses a challenge. I like C. Two contrasting product making techniques. What's the other one? We have custom, I guess, mass production at the end, but no, C is clearly the best description. It broadly encompasses the entire text. It's not focusing in on one part or another. The following text, so main purpose of the text. Always read the title on the poems. It might give you something that's useful information. 1924 poem cycle by Darcy McNichol, who was a citizen of the Confederate Salish and Kootenai tribes. Okay, so we have a citizen of these tribes. Fine, I don't know that that's relevant. What's the purpose? There shall be new roads wending, a new beating of the drum. Men's eyes shall have fresh seeing, gray lives will surprise their span. But under the new sun's being, completing what night began, there'll be the same backs bending, the same. So we have new things happening, but sameness. There's always a turn in a poem. The but is a contrast that happens. Almost every single poem you'll ever read has a turn. And that's like a major shift in focus. And it often reveals the purpose of a poem. So here, there's newness in our country. There are new roads. There's a new drum. There's new eyes. But there's rebirth. There's new life. But under that new sun, there's going to be the same drudgery. There's the same slavery. And this night find its ending, a day and shall have come. Yeah. To consider how the repetitive is inherent in human life can both rewarding and challenging. No. Question whether activities completed at one time of day are more memorable. No. Refute the idea that joy is more commonly experienced. No. Individuals relate to experience of the communities. E. I don't like any of these. I think maybe A. Under the new sun's being completed what night began. It'll be the same backs bending, the same sad feet shall drum. When this night finds its ending, day shall have come. Yeah, it's repetition, maybe. No, it's not about memorableness of activities. It's not about joy being more common in proper comparison. Individuals versus communities, I don't see that in here, so we're going to go with A. I don't like that answer. I'm not confident in that at all. Overall structure of the text again. The North Celestial Pole, the fixed point around which stars in the northern hemisphere, including the sun, appear to rotate, is discernible only at night. Inspired by navigational strategies of some insects and birds, researchers devised a method for locating the North Celestial Pole. Daytime, using skylight polarization. Oh, interesting. Which occurs as atmospheric particles scatter sunlight. A polarimetric, don't worry about pronunciation of that. Camera captures images of polarization patterns which rotate as the sun's position in the sky changes. Cool. Temporal variances across images can then be used to determine. They're using big words here, but don't worry about it. And then we're comparing multiple images as the sun moves across this polarized lens to determine the observer's latitude and bearing relative to the northern celestial pole. Cool. Structure of the text, we are given this technical detail. that it's only visible during night, and inspiration from nature that led to this technological advancement. We're just generalizing. Most navigational tools, we do not know about most tools using this. No, and they do not navigate without. There's plenty wrong with A. Presents celestial-based method of navigation, enumerates the comparative benefits of an alternative method. We do not know that there's an alternative method. Explains how NCP is typically located to emphasize a key difference between how humans and animals use it. We don't know the difference. Notes obstacle to observing astronomical phenomenon, that it's only visible during night. Mentions navigational ability of animals, inspired a solution to that obstacle, and then explains how they used an optical device to mimic. Yes, that one. Main idea of the text. Culinary anthropologist Vertime Smart Grosvenor. What a name. Smart Grosvenor. May be known for her decades of work in national public television and radio, but her book Vibration Cooking, or The Travel Notes of a Geechee Girl, is likely her most influential project. The 1970s book, whose title refers to Smart Grosvenor's roots in the low country of South Carolina, was unusual for its time. Cool. So the main idea so far is the influence of this particular television and radio personality. Memoir, recipes, travel writing, and social commentary and challenge notes. So it was a blog. It was a cooking blog in print form. Long admired by many, the book and its author have shaped contemporary approaches to writing about cuisine. Yeah, every cookbook you've ever picked up, anytime you go to like recipes.com, you're getting the person's like life story about how this cheese casserole meant something to their grandma. So that's the influence. We're getting the main idea of the text is Grosvenor's influence on writing about cooking. Unconventional book is an important contribution to food writing, yes. Held many different positions, no. Groundbreaking book, didn't receive the praise, no. Was a talented chef whose work inspired many people to start cooking. That may be true, but it's not the point. Okay. William Shakespeare's play The Tempest. The Tempest is awesome, read it. Performed in 1611, Miranda has lived on an island with her father Prospero since she was 3 years old. Prospero has stated that Miranda likely does not remember anything other than her life on the island. It is far off, and rather like a dream than an assurance. So what is far off? Probably her life before the island. That my remembrance warrants. Had I not 4 or 5 women at once that tended me? So she remembers that she had a bunch of nannies. Thou hadst and more, Miranda. But how is it that this lives in thy mind? What seest thou else? And the dark backward in the abyss of time, the depths of time. If thou rememberest aught ere thou camest here, if you remember anything about how you came here, how did you come here? How thou camest here, thou mayst. Oh my God, Shakespeare. And that's not even the worst of it. But basically, she says she remembers having these women tend to her as a young child, as a toddler. And Prospero is amazed that she remembers this and says, what else do you remember? Do you remember how you got here? Which point does Prospero most directly make about Miranda and her memories? Reminisces about her childhood, melancholy quality. We do not see the melancholy. Miranda's doubts about the accuracy of one recollection of place are clouding her judgment and seem to be making her reluctant to explore. No, we don't know that. Especially, we don't see her being reluctant to think about her traveling to the island. He is urging her to do that. Miranda's ability to summon details of an experience she had before arriving at the island suggests that she may be able to summon details of her arrival, yes. Impression was seen as vague because she remembered a scenario she had daydreamed. It's not daydreaming, it's remembering. In a research paper, what's this? Okay, illustrate the claim. This is command of evidence. So what's the claim? A student criticized some of historians of modern African politics, claiming that they have evaluated Patrice Lumumba, first prime minister of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, primarily as a symbol rather than in terms of his actions. I've actually seen this question before from the question bank. I wonder if tests 7, 8, 9, 10 are just accumulations of questions that have previously come out in the question bank. That seems probable to me. I don't recognize most of these so far. How are we doing on time? We're about 14 minutes in. Not too bad. They've evaluated Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of what's Congo, primarily as a symbol rather than in terms of his actions. So I need a quotation from a scholarly work that shows somebody talking about Lumumba as a symbol. Difficult figure to evaluate due to the starkly conflicting opinions he inspired during his life. No. Available information makes it clear that Lumumba's political beliefs and values were largely consistent. I need a symbol. Passed over quickly as mainly as the personification of independence. There's a symbol. Many questions remain about Lumumba's ultimate vision for an independent Congo. Without new evidence, we don't see a symbol in there. Support the hypothesis, another command of evidence. Research hypothesis: a decline in the population of dusky sharks near the mid-Atlantic coast of North America led to a decline in the population of oysters. So, decline in sharks, decline in oysters. Great. Dusky sharks do not typically consume eastern oysters, but do consume the rays. And the rays are the predators of the oysters. There's another one I've seen before. So, decline in sharks, increase in rays. Rays eat oysters, which decrease. So that's the logical connection that I need to have in my answer. Declines in the Russian regional abundance of sharks prey, other than cow-nosed rays, are associated with declines in dusky shark abundance. Who cares? I need to connect sharks to rays to oysters. Oyster abundance tends to be greater in areas with both dusky sharks and cow-nosed rays than in areas with only dusky sharks. No, I don't think that does it. If I wanted to, I could draw a little diagram to map that, but I'm pretty sure it's not B. Consumption of Easter oysters by cow-nosed rays in the region substantially increased before the decline in dusky sharks began. I don't know that that would matter. That's a false cause and effect. Cow-nosed rays have increased in regional abundance as sharks have decreased. Yeah. They say in the text that the rays consume the oysters. So I'm going to go with D on that one. Okay, logically complete the text. This is our first inference question. It's not actually an inference. We're just going to restate a thesis or a claim from the text. The musical Hadestown was produced off-Broadway in New York in 2016. A revised version of the musical premiered on Broadway in 2019 in a larger production. In a review of the Broadway production, theater critic Jesse Green enthusiastically praised the musical storytelling. However, Green also explained that he had seen the earlier version of Hadestown in 2016 and found the storytelling to be very confusing. Okay. This suggests that in Green's view, the revision fixed the problem in the storytelling. Always complete the sentence yourself and then fit the answer choices into your completion. That's often a good way to kind of box what the answer should feel like. You do want to make sure that you practice this though, because we don't want to marry ourselves to a particular answer or answer style. Fewer storytelling problems, yep. Should have had a larger production, who cares? Was less enjoyable? No. Improved greatly between 2016 and Broadway. No, 2016 had fewer storytelling problems. No, 2019 had fewer storytelling problems. So A is a reversal. It must be D. If some artifacts recovered from excavation is the settlement of Kuala, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm sorry, and modern Ghana date from the 13th century CE. If some of these things come from the 13th century, that may lend credence to the claims that the settlement was founded before or around that time. Cool. We have an if-then cause and effect relationship. If these artifacts are from this time, it's likely that the thing was settled then, before or around that time. There's other evidence, however, that strongly support 14th century founding date for this place. If both the artifacts dates and the founding date are correct, that means that the artifacts came from somewhere else. They both can't be true, right? So the artifacts were made, 100 years later, those artifacts were brought to a place where a new town, a settlement was founded. More commonly recovered, again, improper comparison. We do not want to pick answer choices that compare things that are not directly compared in the text. Originated elsewhere and eventually reached, yes, through trade and migration. I like B. Found by people from a different region than previously been assumed. We do not know that. It's not that the people came from a different region, it's the artifacts that came from a different region. Excavations at Catan may have inadvertently damaged some of the artifacts. That may be true, but who cares? It's not going to tell me anything about the dates. Logically complete the text again. Big one. Birds of many species ingest foods containing carotenoids, pigmented molecules that are converted into feather coloration. Coloration tends to be especially saturated in male birds' feathers. Because carotenoids also confer health benefits, the deeply saturated colors generally serve to communicate what is known as an honest signal of birds' overall fitness to mate. So, in males, in birds, if they eat carotenoids, they are healthy. That health is transferred into their coloration of feathers, which signals to potential mates, hey, I'm healthy. Cool. However, this ornithologist and others have found that males in several species of tanager use microstructures in the feathers to manipulate light, creating the appearance of deeper saturation without necessarily having to maintain the carotenoid-rich diet. So they set this up as an honest signal of health up here. This is clearly a dishonest signal of health. So by evolution and mating preferences, these particular bird species have evolved to have deeper coloration without the need for actually getting these health benefits. Individual male tanagers can engage in honest signaling without relying on carotenoid consumption. No, that's dishonest signaling. Feather microstructures may be less effective, again, improper comparison. Scientists have yet to determine why tanagers have a preference for mates. That may be true, but who cares? Male tanager's appearance may function as a dishonest signal of the individual's overall fitness, yes. Formed in 1967, what are we doing? It's English now. This is subject-verb agreement. You can tell whenever you see that you're starting to deal with standard conventions of English, look at the answer choices first. That is the best way to approach a grammar question. Looking at the answer choices here, we can quickly see that it is a verb. With verbs, there are only two things you can be tested on, subject-verb agreement or tense. Subject-verb agreement refers to the singular or plurality of the noun and the verb. In English, we have singular and plural nouns and singular and plural verbs. Is and are great examples. It is, they are. The number changes for both the subject and the verb. We want to make sure that we pay attention to that. Has, had, doubles, will double. Here it seems to be about tense, though. Has doubled past, had doubles also past, doubles is present, will double is future. So let's go into the context looking for other verbs. We have past, formed in stability within the region. The Association of Southeast Asian was originally made up of 5 members. By the end of the 1990s, the organization, this is in the past for us, but it's given a definite time frame. So by the end of the 1990s, it had doubled. Has doubled is indicating that it is continuing to do so. That's the difference between has and had. Has is a continued action that began in the past. Had is a completed action that began in the past. And clearly they do expect you to know the difference. Here again we have pronouns and verbs, was, were. So we do have some singular plural action going on. It was, they were. Good so far. This was, some were. Okay. The subjects and verbs appear to agree in number, but what is it that we're referring to? Japanese-American artist depicted the natural beauty of Yosemite National Park in 2 memorable woodcuts, so it's plural. They were exhibited alongside 150 other works. Yeah. All right, we have different punctuation, it looks like. We have a comma before and after, just a comma before Roberto, no commas, and a comma between these two guys before the and. With the comma and, we must have 2 complete sentences or a list. That's the only time you can have a comma in front of an and. If I'm going to put a comma before and after these guys' names, their names should be a non-restrictive clause. I should be able to skip over it. I should have a subject, this non-restrictive clause, and then the verb following this comma. So just looking at those two, I've got very concrete things to look at. So now I'm going to go read the text looking for them. Is it a list, a compound sentence, or a non-restrictive clause? Unfortunately, as researchers Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn, so it's clearly not a complete sentence on each side, and it's clearly not a list. There's our verb, test. So this structurally is satisfied, but unfortunately this is a restrictive clause because the name researchers is not unique to these guys. We need to know what their names are. As researchers attest. Could make sense, but we lose the meaning. As researchers Roberto Scandone and Christopher Kilburn attest. So I'm going to go with the no punctuation on this one. Transition word needs to have a punctuation on both sides, so we know that A is wrong right away. It's either B, C, or D, because there's no situation where A would ever be correct. This would need to have a complete sentence on each side with the semicolon. Same with that semicolon. Same with that semicolon. So let's see where our sentences begin and end. Or actually, that's a comma on both sides. So that's also acceptable, but we would need to have one continuous sentence for C. Let's see what we have. Scott Heron, himself, resisted the Godfather nickname. That is a complete sentence. Feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American blues music tradition as well as bluesologist, the moniker he preferred. That is not a complete sentence. Yeah, whenever we begin with an ing word, it's like a gerund. It needs to have a comma somewhere before an independent clause. I'm going to pause to explain this. Let's pull my whiteboard up to the front here. So hopefully this thing works. I didn't test it. All right. Okay, so we have a colon, or a semicolon rather, with this word however. So however is a conjunctive adverb. And conjunctive adverbs need to have certain conditions. They join two complete sentences. They must have two punctuation marks. And those could be various things, but they must have two. An example of just an abstracted set of rules here. You have to have an independent clause, then maybe a semicolon or a period, then your transition word, and then a comma, and then another independent clause. Period. And that could be one valid way to use a semicolon with the word however here. The word however can go in the middle of a sentence, and that's what's happening here. So we have an independent clause, period. We have our noun, comma, transition, comma, verb, period. And that's what's happening in this text. In our text over here, we have, turn this highlighter off, our independent clause up here. That's one complete sentence. And then we have our noun. It's actually an independent clause, really. Scott Heron himself resisted the Godfather nickname. However, comma, feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African American blues. So that is not a complete sentence. Yeah. Oh, it's bluesologist. I'm making sure there's no verb, feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American blues music tradition as well as bluesologist. The moniker he preferred. Yeah, there's no independent clause on that side, so it has to be this scenario, the independent noun transition verb. All right, back to business. Okay. We have a transition again. The word while, we have a colon, we have a comma. The word while loves commas, so I'm tempted for C right away. But we're going to check out this colon here. A colon must come at the end of a complete sentence. It does not need to be followed by a list. I decided to do both modules today. We'll probably just cut it off at module 1. I'm feeling kind of tired after this. But I'll quickly upload module 2. Over 20 years ago, a landmark experiment in the psychology of choice, Professor Sheena Iyengar set up a jam testing booth at a grocery store. The number of jams available for tasting varied. Number of jams available for tasting varied. That's a complete sentence. Some shoppers had 24 different options. That's also a complete sentence. Because I have 2 independent clauses, I have to go with A. There's no other option that would allow it. Punctuation again, we have comma, we have semicolon with a comma, we have comma, and 2 commas. The word in is a preposition. Prepositions hate punctuation. So right away, I'm tempted for C because it does not have a punctuation mark there. But I'm also tempted maybe for B because if it's 2 complete sentences or maybe if it's a list, that could be acceptable. Let's see, starting from the beginning of the sentence. Gitlin's use of the term referenced TV studios' practice of repackaging successful narrative formulas as new content. That's a complete sentence. In that era, even shows that varied only slightly from other shows still attracted sizable audiences. We're going to manage. All right, sorry, I just got a comment in the Twitch stream here. Yeah. But anyway, this is 2 complete sentences with a transition phrase, so I'm going to go with that. It's similar to the however usage that we saw earlier. We have a transition word. With these, treat them like words in context. Read the paragraph and fit your own word in. Think about cause and effect, time sequence, clarification. Let's see. Although those who migrated to California in 1849 dreamed of finding gold nuggets in stream beds, the state's richest deposits were buried deeply in rock beyond the reach of individual prospectors. By 1852, many had given up their fortune, so probably cause and effect. Therefore, because it was out of reach, many gave up. Capable of mining California's complex mining operations, consequently. Mexican chemist Mario Molina and U.S. chemist Sherwood Rowland discovered the chemicals called CFCs were harmful to the ozone layer. Their research was extremely influential in the fight against CFCs. It laid the foundation for a 1987 treaty. Okay, so that would be like consequently, or like eventually. It was extremely influential. This is how it was influential, so probably specifically. It's clarification. Okay, we have a rhetorical synthesis question. I discovered in test 7 that you did have to read the bullet points on these. I'm going to read the bullet points only if I have to, though. The student wants to emphasize the order in which Alaska and Hawaii became states, so emphasize that order. Alaska, the 49th state, became several months before Hawaii, the 50th. Okay, that does it. Is it true? Alaska is indeed the 49th, Hawaii the 50th. Was it several months? Yeah. August, a new 50th. Nope. Yeah, that doesn't do the task. The student wants to contrast the emissivity of reflective material fibers with that of silicon carbide fibers. So we want to contrast these 2 properties. Okay. The ability of reflective metal fibers and silicon carbide fibers to emit heat was determined by an analysis. No, I want to contrast things. The amount of heat a material absorbs is equal to the amount it emits. No. Though the reflective metal fibers and silicon carbide fibers have different rates of emissivity, I bet we planned to use both in a garment. Whereas the reflective metal fibers had an emissivity of just 0.02, the silicon carbide fibers absorbed large amounts of heat, resulting in an emissivity of 0.74. Yes, I believe that is our best option. Let's double check the accuracy of it. Silicon carbide. Absorb large amounts of heat. Good. This has emissivity of 0.2. Good. Ability to emit heat. Okay. Oh, that's weird. The amount of heat it absorbs is equal to the heat it emits. That's kind of counterintuitive to me. I learned something. The student wants to emphasize the role of a misconception played in the naming of a place. So a misconception in the naming of a place. Las Sergas de Esplandian featured a fictional island known as California, but that doesn't tell me the misconception. To the south of the U.S. state of California lies Baja California, Lower California, originally called California after a fictional place. Doesn't tell me it's a misconception. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers learned of a peninsula off the west coast of Mexico called it California. No misconception, thinking it was an island. Spanish explorer called the peninsula California after an island in a popular novel. That's our guy. Yeah. Fictional island inhabited by black women and known as California. That's kind of cool. That's probably true. Most of the things in the SAT are true. Coming up on the end here, and this video is 37 minutes. I'm going to cut it off after this question. If you learned anything or enjoyed what you saw, leave a like, leave a comment, even if you didn't like what you saw, and still do so. Ask questions in the comments below. If you want to see more clarification or have me slow down or speak louder, speak slower, whatever, just say so in the message in the comments, and I'll be sure to come back and address things as often as I can. Let's do this last one and we'll wrap up here. The student wants to emphasize the aim of a research study. Okay, the aim of a research study is the purpose of it. As it orbited the moon, the Kaguya satellite collected data. That's what it did. It did not tell us the aim. Kentaro Terada wondered if the moon was receiving some of its oxygen from Earth. Okay, that's a wondering. It's not the aim of an experiment. Set it to determine, yeah, that one. The study determined that Earth is sending a small amount of oxygen to the moon. Well, that's cool. Unaccounted oxygen could be coming from Earth. Weird. Alright, that's my answer there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next, but we are going to pause the video so that I can upload this and not have like an hour-long SAT video that nobody is going to watch. Thank you for watching. I will catch you guys next time.